us. Today is last minute notice for us, but we were able to likely put something together to share with you about our recent experience at DrupalCon, which is conducting a training workshop, something that for some of us is a new thing. For some others, is something that we've done before, but it's always a great experience to go through, and we wanted to share this with all of you and provide you with information that you could potentially use yourself in the event that you would like to do this in the future. So today's agenda is we're gonna describe the entire process that we went through for putting this training together, what went through getting all the information in place, and finally talk about some benefits and results that came out of this training. As far as the team that worked on this project is a combination of Mediacurrent and someone from a different agency, Forum One, which we'll be introducing in just a minute. But I started this project myself for SandCamp a few weeks prior to DrupalCon, so that helped me kind of get a sense for what the expectation would be and what we needed to work on with the rest of the team. I pitched this idea to Ben and Eric, and also Marky, who without hesitation decided to jump in and help out, and I'm very thankful to all of them. Everyone did an excellent job at this, and I wanted to publicly thank them for the help and for the great job that they all put in and the work that they put in as well. So also Chaz Chumley, he is a technology manager at Forum One. We'd like to thank him for helping us out with some of the material, and also for talking briefly about Pattern Labs in the context of the topic that we wanted to discuss or train on. Before we start with the details, I'd like to talk about Mediacurrent. Mediacurrent is a full-service digital agency that implements world-class open-source software development, strategy, and design to achieve defined goals for enterprise organizations seeking for a better investment and return on investment. And without the support of Mediacurrent, obviously, we would not be speaking about this opportunity that we had. So we want to thank them for that. So the first challenge was to think about a topic that we would be training on, especially on a DrupalCon. This could be a very competitive arena in which a lot of companies, a lot of organizations, will propose training to be conducted the first day of DrupalCon, the Monday of DrupalCon. So we proposed a topic of component-based development, which is in itself a pretty hot topic, but we wanted to kind of make an emphasis of using the UI patterns module, which is a module that is very promising, that solves a lot of problems that we have ourselves, a Mediacurrent experience when building websites using component-based approach. And so we proposed the topic, and fortunately we were accepted, and that allowed us to start working on this on this training. As I mentioned before, this is a training that I have done with Marky at San Diego a few weeks prior. So we had the challenge of putting the information together, not just for DrupalCon, but for 2 weeks prior to DrupalCon. So that kind of made us rush through things sometimes. But after SandCamp, we had really good information to go by, and we were able to refine the training for DrupalCon with the help of everybody in the team. So the UI patterns, if you don't know, is a module that allows you to convert any pattern that you build or component that you build on, and it turns that into a plugin, a Drupal plugin that Drupal is fully aware of, that can be used pretty much anywhere within Drupal. And the advantage of this is that as opposed to the way we've been building component sites, is that Drupal is fully aware, and we can take advantage of everything that Drupal has to offer when it comes to a plugin. So UI patterns allows us to work with the YAML definitions for content, Fractal, or Pattern Lab, or many other frameworks that you can use for creating style guides. Then those become plugins that you can align with views, display suite, layouts, field groups, and then that allows you to easily theme those patterns. The reason we opted to go for this topic is because we had just finished a project in which we used this module, and we actually had great results with it. It worked out really well for us, and we learned a ton on doing this for the very first time, and we wanted to share with everybody else. So in addition, we wanted to find a way to document what we have just done with this project and make sure that it's available to everybody at Mediacurrent that would like to use the same approach. So we have extensive documentation to go with this training workshop that we put together. So originally, the requirements by the Drupal Association was that we needed a minimum of 7 people to sign up for the training, otherwise training will be canceled. At the end, we ended up with 19 signups, so that was very good to know. We have people from all over the states. We actually have people from out of the country who were looking forward to the training, and the training was, to our measure, it was a success, and we'll be sharing some of the success stories in just a moment. One of the things that we try to be with this training, and the reason is because people are paying a lot of money for coming to a training, spend the whole day with us, and we want to make sure that people get their money worth, that we are providing something of value, something that they can take with them and use on their next project. So we want to make sure that we were as ready as we could in providing not just the information, but an environment that people felt comfortable. And I think we did achieve that. Again, we'll talk about the success stories in a moment. But some of the things that we actually worked on was we had weekly meetings, maybe 2 months in advance. So every Monday, the team will get together to go over the topics that we wanted to cover, the structure, the format, and be able to start working on material, because that is a very extensive and time-consuming process. It's not just about doing a presentation, but this is an entire a full day of training. So we need to have material that not only is useful, that is helpful, but it's also something that we can have enough to cover the entire day of training. So that is it's a challenge to kind of measure how much material you need. And so luckily, again, as having done this before, we were able to measure a good amount of content. And luckily enough, we were able to cover all that content, and people seem to be very satisfied with how that went. We communicated with the attendees as we were getting new numbers every week, and this is important because one of the biggest problems when it comes to doing a training workshop is helping people with their local environment setup. And so communicating with them ahead of time and providing with the information on how to set that up is very important. That can really make or break your workshop. I've had done training workshops in the past where we spend a significant amount of time just helping people with the local environment. This time we wanted to avoid that, and luckily this worked, because when we showed up Monday morning, I would say 95–98% of the people had their environment set up. We didn't have to spend any time on that, and to me that's a great testament that we did something right at the beginning. We also made ourselves available. We actually had 2 days where we had open hours. So anybody who needed help with their environment or had any questions about the training in particular could join us on a hangout, an hour-long hangout for 2 days. Well, hour-long hangout, 2 different days. And so unfortunately nobody showed up, but I guess it shouldn't be unfortunately. I guess that means that people did not need the help, that people were feeling pretty good about the training, and that they did not need any assistance on their local environment setup or questions about the training. So the whole team waited for an hour. We used that time to continue working on the material and preparation, and so that was not really wasted time. It was just a time that we wanted to make sure that people had the help that they needed, so that we can take advantage of the time during training rather than spending it on setting up local environment. We also did something that Mark is going to talk about in detail, is where we streamlined the local environment setup. We eliminated any type of SaaS or front-end configuration. that will require people to install additional tools on their system. That's when things get a little crazy with local environment setup. So eliminating SAS just by eliminating SAS and using strictly just CSS, we eliminated a lot of those troubles that people normally run into when compiling code or when compiling a style guide. So that was very helpful as well. Now I'd like to turn it over to Eric, or is it Ben? I can't remember which one it is. To talk about the format that we followed for the training here. Ben.
Yep. Can we go to the next slide?
Yes.
So the structure that we followed is basically Mario and Chaz kind of did an introduction to the key principles that we'd be covering in the training in the morning. So they talked about atomic design, kind of just like how to think about component-based development. So they did a little introduction to like BEM, class naming, how to compose components together. So putting together a heading and a body text and an image for a card or something like that, and just to make sure that we all had a baseline of how to think about developing components. And then after that, we really just jumped into exercises that we had prepared beforehand. So you can see here, we've got, we actually wrote them up as a Git book so that everybody could have access to them beforehand and after and during the training. So we documented the environment setup in there, stuff about the UI patterns module itself, and then each one of the exercises had building the front end and the steps to do that for each component, and then building them out in Drupal and then integrating them. And so everything had step-by-step instructions. So what we would do is we kind of say, okay, now we're going to build the heading pattern, and we'd let people jump into the exercises on their own. And then we, Eric and Mario and I would kind of mill around and help people as they needed. I think it worked really well because we were really able to give like individualized attention. So we stepped away from the podium and we gave them that hands-on help. Should be off to Eric now.
Yep. Okay. I was just going to cover some tips for preparing for the training. Mario did a great job of a lot of the sort of curriculum that he developed for SandCamp. Really helped kind of break things down into some straightforward exercises for people to follow along with. But one thing, although we spent a lot of time refining and developing those exercises, one thing that was important to make sure we left time for was to run through those exercises ourselves multiple times, especially with fresh eyes, just to try to catch any glitches, bugs, or typos, and also just make sure it was sort of as straightforward as possible, and everything made sense. Another thing I think was really paid off for us was saving a little bit of time to give some polish to sort of the final product. So instead of them, the attendees walking away with just kind of a proof of concept, they actually got, we spent some time actually writing some CSS to make things pretty, basically, so that at the end of the day, they got a little project that looked like something that was ready for production, rather than just kind of like a rough wireframe type thing. And as Mario mentioned earlier, those open or office hours sessions we had were, although we didn't have anybody actually show up for them, it was, a great way to kind of give them an opportunity to ask questions ahead of time or get help on their local setup, which also gave us a little bit of leverage too if somebody did show up on the day of training and they didn't really, hadn't tried to get anything, their local environment set up. We could always say, well, we did have these open hours for you to participate in. But of course, we also did have people that would sign up. They could actually sign up the day of or that weekend before DrupalCon kicked off. So we did have, as Mario mentioned, at least there was just one guy that did have needs some hands-on stuff. But because we had a team, it was easier to help him out and get him up and running. And then as far as the training goes for the day of the training, as we all know, conference Wi-Fi can be spotty. So, probably goes without saying, just to make sure you've got a copy of your, the modules downloaded or whatever you need, other assets available, like on a jump drive that you could pass around in case people aren't able to pull stuff down. And then inevitably you will have, we did have a couple typos in our documentation and stuff. So I think what was really nice was we were able to kind of, fix those on the fly, update that Git book, and even have, folks, if we wanted to, we could have had them submit issues to the repo, just kind of have that worked out ahead of time on how to handle any glitches that you come across. And show appreciation for anybody that does find a typo or something that needs to be fixed, rather than trying to make excuses for it, just kind of embrace the help and make it a collaborative experience for everyone. Let's see, I think it's back to Ben now.
Yeah. So one of the key things in prepping for the training was just getting help. So we were working together to kind of put together the exercises and stuff. But we also asked Jordan if he would jump on some of our weekly calls to actually help us with the things that he was better at than we were. So we asked him all kinds of questions about the integration and building patterns. And we would spend time throughout the week as we were working on the exercises, kind of putting together our questions and then send those to him so he could cover those with us in the calls. And then we kept him in the loop. He was, I think, on even up until the last day. And then even in the training, we were addressing some environment issues, and Jordan was in there in the developers channel with me, trying to troubleshoot some UI patterns. So it was awesome to have his help on the day and throughout.
All right, Marky, your turn.
So, like we said, we wanted to make sure everybody had an environment before they came in. So we set up a bunch of information. I'll go back one.
Yeah, I think it skipped. There is a delay. Let me quickly go. I did go back.
There's a missing slide.
There we go.
Right.
There's a delay.
So we set up the repo, this one right here. We decided to use Lando because it's the new hotness. Made everything setting up very easy. Drupal scaffolding, so we can create a Drupal profile that had everything installed already into it. And as you can see, the next one, we grab the required modules.
Hold on, there's a delay right now, so I'm waiting for it.
I am speaking so fast. So we grabbed the required modules and stuck them into a composer file. Right there, those are all the ones that we have. We really didn't need Drush because Lando brings its own Drush. But we wanted the admin toolbar, the components module, the latest core, little devil action so that we could get the twig Kint going, display suite, field group, paragraphs, all that great stuff. And then we had a 6-step process. You have to install Lando. You certainly want to do, well, go back one, not done yet. You have to install Lando and Composer, of course, in order to get all those things working on there. Clone our repo in there. Start up Lando, where you get the wonderful message, boom, shakalaka, which allows you to have the HTTP and HTTPS site. It's all in Docker, so it makes turning on and off containers easy. Then you move on to the next couple steps where you install the PHP dependencies, and then you install Composer with Lando Drush, which is already in there. And what that did is it took a config installer that we had already set up and installed a bunch of different things using the Lando database. and stuff. We ran into a couple of problems. Lando, in fact, does need an internet connection for you to use their URLs. You have to kind of you can jump through some hoops to fix that, but it does require it. So if the internet connection was shoddy, well, we had issues. Had to have Docker and Composer already installed. So if someone came in without that, fortunately, in the SandCamp training or the DrupalCon training, neither people did that. So those could have issues. The latest build of Lando had a problem with MySQL. That didn't really affect the training. It's just something that I noted as of this last week. You have to actually define what version of MySQL you're using. You can't just use the latest. As always, if you use Composer Update, you have the Composer Update Blues, which I'm still very annoyed that no one got video of that song at DrupalCon, but that's a new story altogether. We didn't have a default page. And then actually when we first created this, we actually created an install profile that had all the paragraphs created and everything created for you. And then it turns out that we really wanted them to see how to do that. So we had to take that out and then start with just a fresh thing. So moving on.
Yeah, I just want to add to Marky's point there about having Lando set up. So most people follow those instructions ahead of time because we provided those ahead of time. But we also gave people an option to use whatever system they already had in place for setting up the local environment. We didn't want to impose on them using something that they may not be comfortable with. So a lot of people came in with their regular system already set up, ready to go, and only a few people were the ones who chose to use the Lando approach. Just to note that whoever used the Lando approach didn't have any of the issues that other people may have had. So kudos to Marky for that.
Also, the great thing about that is if someone came, and we had this in San Diego, somebody had their own special environment that was the best environment ever, and then asked me to troubleshoot it. And I said, well, I don't know what you're doing there. Why don't you do the one that we said would be the easiest? Oh, no, I'll figure it out. And that allowed us to kind of roll with the, you know, if you're going to roll your own, then you can just do your own thing.
Right. All right, so let's talk about some of the benefits.
Might want to hit the next slide. Is it still delaying? There we go. I guess Ben kicked that off.
Yeah, so one of the nice things, or the nice thing about having all the exercise written down and available to all the students is, one, it helps everyone follow along. You know, as we were going around helping people, they would get stuck on something, and we could be like, okay, well, let's like make sure we get back. Let's like go look at the instructions and make sure we followed all the steps, because it was hard. I mean, as you're jumping around helping other people to really keep track of where everybody is, because everybody was kind of moving on their own. But that was also a nice thing, is that everybody got to work at their own pace, so that there was one guy, I think, who had finished all the exercises by lunchtime and was able to kind of just soak in the rest of the training and help his neighbor beside him. And there were other students who got really excited about it and wanted to help each other. And so that was cool to have that in place so that people could kind of jump in and help each other. And then it was, you know, super helpful for all of us to have the team in place. You know, as Eric was talking or Mario was talking, we could go around and help. I helped this lady in the picture with her Windows environment that she had a lot of issues with, and that was who Jordan also jumped in and helped via Slack. But the structure that we had in place, it really helped, I think, us be able to give individualized attention and make sure that the people that were coming, they weren't just getting the value of the training for them wasn't just the content, but actually having someone able to look over their shoulder and help them debug issues.
Yeah, so there's a story behind this picture here. That's why we are putting that picture there. And if you look, I think Ben is praying there that whatever he just did works. So, but yeah, so I think next year we are proposing that Ben gets the Drupal Association Award, whatever the award is called, just for helping this lady here. But no, one of the things that Ben mentioned there is that people were really excited about, the training, the exercises. They were helping each other. They were saying how great this was, and so that really made us feel really good, knowing that people were actually getting something out of this. And that's pretty much all you need. That's all you ask for when you're doing something like this, when you put in so much work into this. So go ahead, Ben. Sorry.
I think Eric's got this.
Yeah. So I just wanted to have a quick note about like the benefits of participating with this training session. When Mario asked if I was interested in helping, one of the things is that I had, when we were gonna do it about UI patterns, I had not ever used UI patterns on a project yet, and in previous projects like with Six Flags, we talked about should we take that approach or not, and then I think a lot of us just weren't comfortable enough with it. So this actually gave me a great opportunity to learn more about it by helping out with the training. And what was great about it is that we already had, Mario already kind of had his curriculum set up. So it was, you had kind of a structured way to dive in and learn it. And then plus we had this deadline coming up where we had to have everything ready for the training. So it kind of, kept you focused and not just kind of floundering while you're trying to kick the tires on something new. And as they say, the best way to learn something is to teach it. So I just encourage anyone, if somebody's thinking of doing a training session and you're looking, they're doing it on something that is a subject you might be interested in learning more about, it's a great way to kind of help out with the training, make it a better process overall, and then also learn something yourself. Another thing too was what was great about it is that we weren't really like restricted to a project's requirements, so we can kind of explore other ways to other approaches with UI patterns and kind of push it to its limits and figure out where it breaks.
All right, so let's talk about some results that we saw here. Okay, so one of the really neat things that came out of this training is that we actually had a pretty solid lead. One of the attendees in the training was interested in Mediacurrent helping them with their project, their migration to Drupal 8 project. And so Josh, sales Josh, and I had a call with her last week, and she is definitely interested in working with us. She still needs to sort things out. She lives in Denmark, so it was great to be able to talk to somebody internationally and be able to talk about how Mediacurrent can help them with their support or consulting needs. So that's something that hopefully something comes out of that. So far, all signals point to something happening, and I'm very excited about that. The material that we have put together, that we have worked on for months, is available to anybody at Mediacurrent who would like to conduct a similar or the same kind of workshop. So that is available, and we can point you to that information. One of the goals that that I pitched again to the team, and they just keep follow me. Just the fact that we're doing this session is, I asked them yesterday, do you guys want to do it? And they say, sure. So I think I found a great team to work with here. So one of the proposals that I made is that we write a book about component-based development, a book that we can split it into multiple sections, building components with Cases Node or Pattern Lab, UI patterns, and building components with the React. So that's something that it may look a little ambitious, but I think it's something that is doable. We already have plenty of material that we can use for the book, and it's something that Mediacurrent can offer as an ebook, as incentive for people to sign up to our newsletter. The other thing that this can benefit Mediacurrent is that I can now offer this kind of training as an offering to new clients. So that's something that we actually have done already. We did that with other clients in the past, and that has helped us, clean up the material a little bit better and customize it in a way that makes more sense. So those are the things that sometimes you don't realize that will result out of what you're doing. You're putting a lot of work, you're putting a lot of time into something like this, but you never know what the outcome of that will be. And I think we found some really good benefits by doing this training. The other thing is I would like to point out that this was Ben's first talk, if you can call this a talk, and on a Drupal event, and so he did extremely well, and we're very, very proud of how he did during the training. So here's our team photo. This is a happy gang here after finishing up the training. We were very excited. Marky got a little too excited, and but again, it reflects. If you look at Marky's picture, he's always looking elsewhere on the pictures, so that's why we had him.
Yeah, this is a rare picture where I'm looking actually at the camera. So
yeah. So but yeah. So no, this is the team that made it all happen, and we're very excited. We've gotten a lot of great feedback from people who attended the training. We got people going to our after party and talking about the training to us. So we're very excited, and I think there's always room for improvement, but this was a great experience for all of us. And again, I would like to thank our team for jumping in and helping out. So that's all we have. I'm not sure if there are any questions that we can answer.
So I don't think there's any questions. If anybody has any, just go ahead and post them in the general channel. But great job, guys.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. Have a great
Everybody.
day.
Have a good week.
Thanks all.
hey, thanks. Bye.
Thank you.